I remember back in the day when I was writing code and I was working for Ericsson, and at one point I got to a half management position, so I got to talk to the legal person within the company, and it's frightening. Like they were obviously on the side of a company like Ericsson with a lot of patents and intellectual property rights type of income. Like, no, you can't work upstream, you can't upload anything because you're giving away our IP, and like you should rather write patents about everything. And I remember as an individual and someone who was still big chunk developer and engineer, it's hard to get a grasp on the license aspects of the open source space and what your role is, responsibilities are, what are the real threats. Do you have experience with trying to help individuals who really just trying to write code, how to navigate that space from more of an individual perspective as opposed to the different size companies?
So, I mean, I had I've had conversations with founders who, so before they started, well, after they already had a little bit of a project in their hands, trying to help them understand what their licensing options were, considering their dependencies that they already have. And in general, when things get complicated, you should always talk to a lawyer. The, uh, if they get complicated, but for the simpler things in general, it's fairly, the licenses there are two different buckets. There is a strong copyleft and there is no copyleft, which the industry or some people tend to call permissive or non-permissive, which is a misnomer. They're all permissive. All the open source licenses are permissive. You have permissions. There are some that can come also with obligations, like the copyleft licenses. And the non-copyleft licenses, they let you do without obligation. Let you do whatever you want without obligations. And in the end, there are 4 or 5 licenses that you need to be familiar with. They're not really that complicated. Once you see those in the wild, you can understand what your obligations are and go with it. Small projects, I don't think that there is much. You don't need a lawyer. More complicated endeavors and then enterprises, it's probably better to have a conversation about that. There are a few resources online. Also, we're talking with the Open Source Initiative about whether we should be a little bit more prescriptive ourselves too. And there isn't a project ongoing to review the list of licenses and started to add a little bit of tags to classify them more deeply than they're classified now, to highlight whether a license is putting obligations on, for example, where you can sue someone who abuses it, so choice of law, or things like that.